Eat the coin, you low-class fraud, Gabriel Thorne said. He smashed his boot into Julian's face. Julian's head hit the mud. I just bought your name for $1 US. You are not a human anymore. You are a bad debt. Open your mouth or I will break your jaw. Julian choked on the dirt while the 500 elites recorded his death on their phones. You are a social climber who failed the final test, Evelyn, Julian Miller shouted. He stood in the center of the grand ballroom. He held a glass of vintage 1945 champagne. He poured the liquid directly over Evelyn's head. The wine soaked her hair. It flowed down her neck. It ruined her $3,000 suit. Evelyn did not move. She did not wipe her eyes. She stood still. The wire transfer for the florist is blocked, Julian, Evelyn said. Her voice did not shake. The hotel manager is currently calling the police. You just poured $5,000 of stolen champagne on me. You do not have $5,000 in your bank account. Julian laughed. He turned to the crowd of 500 billionaires. Did you hear this low-class fraud? She thinks she controls my money. Clara, show this woman why she is the help. Clara stepped forward. She wore a $200,000 Vera Wang gown. She grabbed Evelyn's hair and pulled her head back. You are a bookkeeper, Evelyn. You are a trash in a tuxedo trying to marry into a class you do not belong to. Guards, strip her of the family jewelry and throw her into the street. Julian raised his hand. He swung his palm toward Evelyn's face. A hand caught Julian's wrist. The sound of Julian's bone snapping was loud. Julian shrieked. He fell to his knees. His wrist was twisted. Gabriel Thorne stood over him. Gabriel did not speak. He kicked Julian's ribs. Julian rolled across the floor. You touched my lead architect, Gabriel said. He stepped on Julian's hand. He pressed down. The sound of more bones breaking filled the room. The hospital bill for that hand is now more than your net worth. The ballroom doors crashed open. Marcus, the global risk officer, entered with 20 armed security guards. Attention, Marcus shouted. The Miller family is officially bankrupt. Every account is zero. Julian Miller, your status as chief executive officer is terminated. Your identification is revoked. You are a financial ghost. Julian looked at the senator. Senator, help me. We have the merger. The senator stepped back. He adjusted his tie. I do not know you, Julian. I only know the chief executive officer of this company. And Marcus just said that person is gone. You are just a social climber in a dirty shirt. Marcus walked to Clara. He grabbed the fabric of her Vera Wang gown. What are you doing? Get off me! Clara screamed. This dress was purchased with a fraudulent credit line, Marcus said. He pulled industrial shears from his pocket. He did not look at her. He cut the silk from the neck to the waist. Rip. The fabric fell away. A large yellow tag on the inside lining showed rental property, return by midnight, $50 late fee. The guests roared with laughter. They pointed their phones. A rental, a woman shouted. The bride is a low-class fraud wearing a used dress. The jewelry is next, Marcus said. He reached for Clara's neck. He tore the diamond necklace off. The gold clasp broke. He did not stop. He took the rings from her fingers. These are stolen property. You are going to the police station in your underwear. Evelyn walked to Julian. She took a napkin. She wiped the wine from her forehead. I am the signatory, Julian, Evelyn said. I am the one the banks trust. You were a project. I am the one who built the project. Today, the project is cancelled. Gabriel Thorne stood behind Evelyn. He placed a hand on her neck. His grip was firm. The mansion is gone, Gabriel said to Julian. The cars are gone. Your mother is currently being evicted by my team. You have 0 minutes to leave this building. Julian crawled toward Evelyn's boots. He was sobbing. Evelyn, please. I am a Miller. You are a trash in a tuxedo, Evelyn said. She kicked his face away. And the trash is being collected tonight. Marcus held the tablet in the air. He did not look at the guests. He looked at the data. The Miller infection has spread, Marcus shouted. Every person in this room who received a gift, a loan, or a payment from Julian Miller in the last 12 months is now flagged. The United States Department of Justice is monitoring your accounts. You are all accessories to a $10 million United States dollar fraud. The ballroom turned into a riot. The 500 elites stopped recording with their phones. They began to scream. I did not know it was stolen, a duchess yelled. She threw her emerald bracelet onto the floor. Take it back. Do not freeze my trust fund. Julian Miller is a low-class fraud, a billionaire shouted. He grabbed a chair and threw it at the bar. He told us the money was clean. Evelyn, you have to tell the banks we are innocent. Evelyn walked toward the exit. She did not look at the screaming crowd. Gabriel Thorne walked beside her. He kept his hand on her waist. He used his other hand to push a CEO out of the way. The CEO hit a table and fell into a tray of oysters. Evelyn, wait. The senator ran to the front of the group. He blocked the heavy oak doors. He was sweating. His face was red. Evelyn, my campaign fund is in that bank. If you do not sign the waiver, I will lose my seat. I will be a social climber just like Julian. You chose to take money from a trash in a tuxedo senator, Evelyn said. You did not ask where it came from when you were buying your beach house. Now the bank is taking the house and the beach. I will give you anything, the senator begged. He fell to his knees. He grabbed the hem of Evelyn's ruined suit. I will pass any law you want. Just sign the release. Gabriel Thorne stepped forward. He did not use words. He lifted his boot and kicked the senator's chest. The senator flew backward into the crowd. Get out of the way, Gabriel said. The crowd did not move. They were desperate. They were losing their private jets. They were losing their offshore accounts. They saw Evelyn as the only person who could save their status. A group of 5 socialites ran to Evelyn. These were the women who called Evelyn a servant 1 hour ago. Now they were tearing their own hair. They were crying. Evelyn, please. A woman in a red dress screamed. She ripped a diamond earring out of her ear and held it out. Take this. It is worth 50,000 United States dollars. Just tell the chief executive officer of the bank that I am your friend. We were just joking earlier. Another woman yelled. She shoved the first woman to the floor. Evelyn, I always liked you. I told Clara you were better than her. Please, do not let them take my Ferrari. The women began to fight each other. They scratched at each other's faces. They pulled at each other's expensive silk dresses. One woman bit the arm of her friend to get closer to Evelyn. You are all social climbers, Evelyn said. Her voice was cold. You are all low-class frauds who live on stolen interest. I am not your friend. I am the woman who is buying your debt. Gabriel Thorne signaled to the 20 security guards. Clear the path, Gabriel ordered. The guards moved in. They used their batons. They hit the arms of the billionaires. They pushed the socialites into the mud on the floor. The sound of high heels breaking and silk ripping filled the hall. Evelyn and Gabriel walked through the path. They stepped over the crying elites. They walked out of the grand ballroom. Outside, the rain was falling hard. The black Rolls-Royce sat at the curb. The engine hummed. Evelyn, look at me. Julian Miller appeared from the service entrance. 2 guards held him by the arms. He was still in his underwear. His broken wrist was purple and swollen. He looked at the car. I have the offshore keys, Evelyn, Julian screamed. I hid 2 million United States dollars in a Cayman account. I will give you half. Just tell them I am still the chief executive officer. Marcus walked to Julian. He did not say anything. He took Julian's chin in his hand. He forced Julian's mouth open. The Cayman accounts were seized 10 minutes ago. Julian, Marcus said. There is no money. There is only a gold coin in your stomach. And that belongs to the bank too. Marcus shoved a finger into Julian's mouth. Julian gagged. Take him to the police station, Marcus ordered the guards, and make sure the doctor knows that coin is evidence. Do not let him go to the bathroom until they recover it. The guards threw Julian into the back of a police van. The door slammed. Evelyn stepped into the Rolls-Royce. Gabriel sat next to her. The door closed. Suddenly, the car stopped. A crowd of 50 guests had run out of the hotel. They stood in the rain. They blocked the road. They were shouting. Some were banging on the bulletproof glass. Evelyn, sign the paper. Forgive us, we will pay you back. The women were kneeling in the puddles. Their 300,000 United States dollar gowns were soaking in the dirty water. They did not care. They were fighting for their lives. Gabriel looked at the driver. Drive. If they do not move, that is their choice. The driver pressed the accelerator. The heavy car moved forward. The socialites screamed and dived into the mud to avoid the wheels. The car drove over a pile of abandoned silk shawls and designer handbags. Evelyn looked out the window. She saw the senator sitting on the curb. He was crying into his hands. He was a trash in a tuxedo now. The social circle is smaller tonight, Gabriel said. It is cleaner, Evelyn replied. The police van stopped at the back entrance of the first precinct. The guards opened the door. They grabbed Julian by the shoulders. They pulled him out. Julian hit the concrete. He was naked except for his cheap cotton underwear. The rain was cold. It did not wash the white frosting from his skin. It turned the sugar into a sticky gray paste. I demand my phone call, Julian screamed. He looked at the intake officer. I am Julian Miller. I am the chief executive officer of Miller Global. You are making a mistake that will cost you your career. The intake officer did not look up from his computer. He was a tired man in a blue shirt. Sit down, you low-class fraud. You are just another drunk in a precinct full of drunks. I am a billionaire, Julian shouted. He tried to stand. A guard shoved him back into the plastic chair. The chair was hard. Julian's broken wrist hit the metal armrest. He let out a loud cry. "Name?" the officer asked. "Julian Miller," Julian said. He spat blood onto the floor. "Check the database. Check the Fortune 500 list. I am on the cover of the June issue." The officer typed the name into the computer. He waited for 3 seconds. The screen stayed red. "Nothing," the officer said. "No Julian Miller in the system, not for Miller Global, not for anything." "That is impossible." Julian lunged at the desk. 2 guards grabbed his neck. They pushed his face onto the cold glass of the intake window. "Try the identification number," Julian hissed. He recited a 10-digit number. "It is my social security number. It is linked to the Miller Trust." The officer typed the 10 digits. The computer made a long, flat beep. "This number belongs to a deceased male in Ohio," the officer said. He looked at Julian. "He died 22 years ago. You are a social climber using a dead man's ghost. That is a federal felony." "Evelyn did this," Julian whispered. He realized the truth. She erased the records. She had the access codes for the National Registry. She did not just take my money. She took my existence. Suddenly, the heavy metal door of the intake room opened. Evelyn walked in. She was wearing a new suit. It was black. It was clean. Gabriel Thorne walked behind her. He held a glass of water. He gave it to Evelyn. He did not give any to Julian. Evelyn walked to the intake window. She looked at Julian through the glass. "I am the executor of the Miller estate," Evelyn said to the officer. "I am here to provide the correct data for this trash in a tuxedo." "Evelyn, stop this!" Julian hammered on the glass with his good hand. "Tell them who I am. Tell them we lived together for 3 years." Evelyn did not look at Julian's eyes. She looked at the officer's screen. "This man is a vagrant. He was found trespassing at a private event. He was wearing stolen clothing. He was using a fraudulent name to obtain credit." "I have his fingerprints right here," the officer said. He pointed to the digital scanner. "We just ran them. There is no match in the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation database. It is like he was never born." "That is because I deleted the biometric backup an hour ago," Evelyn said. Her voice was a flat fact. "The cloud servers for the Miller Corporation were under my private control. I wiped the data. I destroyed the physical files. Julian Miller does not exist. There is only this low-class fraud sitting in your chair." Julian began to sob. He felt the gold coin in his stomach. It was a cold, hard weight. He clutched his belly. "I have money," Julian yelled. "I have the coin. Gabriel Thorne gave it to me. It is a gold coin. It is worth 10 United States dollars. Gabriel Thorne stepped forward. He looked at the officer. "That coin is a piece of evidence. It was stolen from my private collection. I want it back." "The prisoner swallowed it, Mr. Thorne," the guard reported. "Then he is a thief," Gabriel said. He did not smile. "I want a court order for the recovery of my property. Do not let him use the bathroom. I want that coin back in my hand." The officer nodded. He began to type a new report. Charges: theft of a gold coin, trespassing, identity theft, fraud. The bail is set at 5 million United States dollars. Julian laughed. It was a high, broken sound. 5 million? I do not have 5 cents. My accounts are 0. You know that. Then you stay in the cell, the officer said. A doctor in a white coat entered the room. He held a tray of metal tools. He looked at Julian's stomach. "We need to monitor the asset," the doctor said. "If the coin does not pass naturally in 12 hours, we will perform a forced extraction. The prisoner will pay for the surgery." "I cannot pay for surgery," Julian screamed. "Then the cost will be added to your debt," Evelyn said. "You owe the bank 40 million United States dollars, Julian. This surgery will be 40 million and 10,000 United States dollars. You will work in the prison laundry for the next 50 years to pay for the salt in your soup." The guards grabbed Julian. They dragged him toward the back of the precinct. "Wait, Evelyn, give me a chance." Evelyn turned her back. She did not look at the door as it slammed shut. "The identification is dead," Marcus said, appearing from the hallway. "The social media accounts are deleted. The news articles now list the chief executive officer of Miller Global as unknown fraudster. The Miller name is officially yours, Evelyn." Gabriel Thorne took Evelyn's hand. He led her out of the police station. Outside, a group of 20 photographers stood in the rain. They were waiting for a statement. "Is it true Julian Miller was a social climber?" a reporter shouted. "Is it true he is a low-class fraud who wore a rental tuxedo to his own wedding?" another asked. Evelyn stopped. She looked at the cameras. "Julian Miller was a shadow. I am the light that created the shadow. The light is now turned off. There is nothing left to see." She stepped into the black Rolls-Royce. Gabriel sat next to her. The car moved forward. It drove past a line of 50 socialites who were still waiting in the mud. They were begging for a meeting. They were holding their jewelry boxes in the rain. Evelyn did not lower the window. She did not sign their papers. She watched the police station disappear in the dark. "He is in the system now," Gabriel said. "As a zero." "He is less than a zero," Evelyn said. "He is a debt that will never be paid." Julian Miller sat on the cold concrete bench of cell block 9. He wore a bright orange jumpsuit made of cheap polyester. The fabric scratched his skin. It was not silk. It was not wool. It was a $3 garment for a low-class fraud. The steel door of the cell slid open with a heavy bang. Gabriel Thorne walked into the small room. He did not look at the dirt on the floor. He looked at Julian. "I want to go home," Julian said. He gripped his stomach. The 10 United States dollar gold coin was still a hard lump inside his intestines. "You are home, Julian," Gabriel said. He held up a legal document. "I just signed the private management contract for this facility. Thorne Evelyn Logistics now owns the food you eat, the water you drink, and the bed you sleep on. You are a social climber who is now a tenant in my prison." Julian's mouth opened. He could not speak. "The Miller name was removed from the mansion gate 1 hour ago," Gabriel continued. "The bronze letters were melted down. I turned them into a bowl for my dog. Your clothes were moved to the yard." Evelyn watched the fire for 10 minutes. "She did not save anything, not even your father's watch." "That was my inheritance," Julian screamed. He tried to stand up, but the weight of the coin made him stumble. "You have no inheritance, you low-class fraud," Gabriel said. He stepped closer. He did not use a metaphor. He used a physical fact. He grabbed the front of Julian's orange jumpsuit and pulled him off the bench. "I bought your family debt for $1 United States dollar. That means I own your past. Evelyn owns your future. You are a trash in a tuxedo who no longer has the tuxedo." Gabriel dropped Julian back onto the bench. "The surgery to remove the gold coin is scheduled for midnight," Gabriel said. "The cost of the medical team is 50,000 United States dollars. Since you have 0 United States dollars, the bank has issued a new loan in your name. You will spend the next 30 years working in the prison rock quarry to pay for the removal of my property from your body." Julian began to sob. He hit his head against the concrete wall. "Evelyn, I want to talk to Evelyn," Julian whimpered. "Evelyn is at the mansion," Gabriel said. "She is sitting in the library. She is signing the merger papers that will erase Miller Global from the stock exchange. By tomorrow morning, the word Miller will only exist in the criminal records of this precinct." Gabriel walked to the door. He stopped and looked back. "The 10 United States dollar coin is the only asset you have," Julian, Gabriel said, "and the moment the doctor takes it out, it returns to my pocket. You will be left with a scar and a debt that is 40 million United States dollars deep. That is the price for touching what belongs to a Thorne." The steel door slammed shut. The lock clicked. Outside the prison, a black Rolls-Royce was waiting. Evelyn sat in the back seat. She was looking at a tablet. She did not have the 1945 champagne on her hair anymore. She was clean. She was the chief executive officer of the Thorne Evelyn Trust. Gabriel stepped into the car. He sat next to her. He did not kiss her. He did not speak of love. He reached out and placed his hand on her neck. He gripped the back of her head with firm, possessive fingers. "The debt is recorded," Gabriel said. "Is the low-class fraud processed?" Evelyn asked. "He is in the system as a zero," Gabriel replied. Evelyn looked at the screen of her tablet. She pressed a button. The digital lights of the Miller mansion on the map turned from red to green. "The acquisition is complete," Evelyn said. "Drive." Gabriel ordered the driver. The car moved forward. It drove through the city. It passed the 500 elites who were still standing in the rain outside the hotel. They were begging for their identification numbers to be restored. They were fighting over the scraps of their ruined reputations. The Rolls-Royce did not stop. It drove through the puddle. It splashed the mud onto the gowns of the socialites. These were the women who called Evelyn a servant. Now, they were the ones cleaning the mud from their faces with their bare hands. The car reached the mansion. The new sign on the stone wall was made of black granite. It said, "Thorne Evelyn." The driver opened the door. Evelyn stepped out. She walked up the stairs of the house that once belonged to Julian's family. She did not look at the empty fountain. She did not look at the burned grass in the yard. She walked into the hall. The servants stood in a line. They bowed their heads. "Welcome home, Ms. Evelyn," the head butler said. He was the same man who worked for Julian for 10 years. He did not mention the name Miller. Gabriel Thorne stood behind her. He stood in the center of the hall. He was the power that held the debt. "The trash in a tuxedo is gone," Gabriel said. "The social climber is erased," Evelyn added. Evelyn walked to the window. She looked at the dark city. She did not feel a heavy blade of emotion. She did not feel like a queen. She felt the cold reality of the ledger. The balance was now in her favor. The debt was paid, the revenge was a fact, the alpha had his queen, and the queen had the world.
Seeing Julian stripped down to his cheap socks, while begging for a life he never actually earned, is the kind of social liquidation that makes the world feel a lot more balanced today. If you discovered your partner had been using you as a human ATM for years, would you quietly walk away, or would you stay to dismantle their entire existence piece by piece like Evelyn did? Between us, the detail about Julian swallowing the $10 coin was added because I wanted him to carry the physical weight of his own bankruptcy for the rest of his life.